Hi, in today's video I'm going to show you how to make this card. It seems to be going around the internet at the moment. I've seen it in all various different places. I've seen it on Pinterest and YouTube, made in various sizes by different people. So I thought I'd show you how easy it is to make in ScanNCut Canvas. It's called the Impossible Card, and it's basically because it's got a cutout on both sides, and the trick, I think, is to work out how it's made. So it will sit, like this. You can put a greeting or something here, or you could handwrite your message on the back, however you want to do it. But it will fold flat, and I've made this one 5.5 by 4.25, so it will fit in a UK A6 envelope, which is, I think, an A2 envelope in other parts of the world. So a standard size card, really. Probably, apart from a 5 by 7, one of the most popular size cards that we make. So I hope you like it. And I'm going to pop over to Canvas now and show you how I designed it. Okay, so I'm in ScanNCut Canvas and I've got a new blank page open. I'm going to scroll and find the rounded rectangle, which I think is this one here from the basic shapes. And if you're new to my channel and you don't know how to get here, when you come into Canvas, you should see these tabs on the left hand side, and it's under basic shapes. With the rectangle on the canvas, I'm going to come to the properties box, which is the box up here. By default, this is normally ticked. I'm going to untick it where it says maintain aspect ratio. I'm going to highlight the number that's in the first box, and I'm going to delete it and type 4.25, and then I'm going to use the tab key on my keyboard and tab over. I'm going to delete the number that's in this second box, and I'm going to make this 5.5 and hit enter. So I've now got a 4.25 by 5.5 rectangle with rounded corners. So the next thing I'm going to do is come up here to the icons and select the path icon. I'm going to left click on this left edge and let go, hold my shift key down and just drag out a straight line and double click to anchor it. And this line needs to be a dash line, but it doesn't need to be this wide, but I'm just going to use it as a guide for now. So with this line selected, I'm going to come to the properties box. I'm going to make it a cut line, and then I'm going to come down here and make it a dash line and close the box. I'm going to select both. I'm going to come to edit, a line in the center, and edit a line in the middle. And then I'm going to group them by right clicking and choosing group. So they're now a group. Now I'm going to come back to the editing icons and choose the path icon again. I'm going to click just on this top line, let go, press the shift key down, drag out my line until it meets this dotted line, and double click to anchor it. While it's selected, I'm going to come to the properties box and just make it a cut line, just a straight cut line, nothing else. I'm going to select them both. I'm going to come to edit a line in the center. Then I'm just going to zoom in, click on the line. I think I've just moved it ever so slightly, so I'm just going to undo that. Click on the line and just make sure that this top edge comes to the top of your card. I'm going to go back to fit to mat, and that just needs to be a cut line, and that's it. I'm going to select everything, right click and group. So now when I move it all, it moves as one. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to hold the shift key down on my keyboard, come over here to the green dot, and I'm going to rotate it so it's upside down. And then I'm going to bring it up here and position it on the ruler. and I'm lining the base card up so it lines up with the left hand grey line here on the ruler, and so that it's on the top here where I can see it. So what I now want to do, want to come to the path icon and select it, and then where it's at 1.5, I'm going to left click on the black base card but in the 1.5 position, just a left click and let go, and then I'm going to hold the shift key down, and then I'm just going to drag the mouse down, and by holding the shift key down I can't move this line any other way than up or down, and I'm going to bring it down until it meets this dash line, and then I'm going to double click on the mouse and that will anchor the line. While it's selected, I'm just going to make it a cut line and leave it as a straight cut line. I'm going to come back to the path icon, select it again. This time I'm going to come to 4 inches. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to left click once where it says 4 and let go. Hold my shift key down, and without pressing anything, just drag the mouse down in a straight line. Then when I get to this horizontal dash line, I'm going to double click and that anchors the line. While it's selected, go to the properties box, make it a cut line and just leave it as a straight line. So the card is 5.5 inches wide, so I've come in 1.5 inches from the left, so that's at 1.5 here, and I've come into 4 inches from the right, which is 1.5 inches from this edge. So now I'm just going to go back to fit to mat. I'm going to select everything, right click and group for now. And that's how my card is looking now so far. So again, I'm going to select it, I'm going to hold the shift key down, rotate it so it's the right way up. Now I'm just going to zoom in on this middle section here. I want to select just this dash line. I only use that as a guide to put my cut lines in. So now I'm going to, with it all selected, I'm going to right click and ungroup and click away, and then click on it again, and it's still selecting the outside box, so I'm going to right click and ungroup again. I just want to isolate the dash line, so I'm going to keep right clicking and ungroup until everything is individual again. And when I select the line, I'm clicking on the line, but it's selecting the outside of the card, so I'm going to right click and center back, and I'm just going to try and select the dash line. Now I may have to zoom in even more. So now I've got the dash line. So all I'm going to do now, I'm just going to hover my mouse over the end of the dash line until it turns to an arrow, and I'm just going to drag it in and bring it until it meets that cut line. Then I'm just going to use the mouse and scroll over, and I'm going to come to the other end and do the same. So when I get the arrow that's now pointing to the right, I'm going to select it and drag it in until it meets that cut line and let go. Now I'm going to go back to fit to mat. So now I'm going to select everything. In fact, I'm just going to select the base card and go to the properties box and just make it, because it's on cut or draw at the moment, so I'm just going to make it cut, and then all the lines are all set the same, and I'll zoom in and I'll show you what I mean. So I'm selecting everything, right click and group. So now for zoom in on this section, the base card is set as a cut line, this vertical line is set as a cut line, this vertical line and this vertical line are cuts, but the one in the middle is set as a dashed, and that's the basic card shape. So now I want to put the matting layers in. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to come back to the path icon and select it. I'm going to left click up here in the corner, about a distance from the top and the same distance from this cut line. So just about here. You can alter this later, it's up to you. I'm going to left click and let go. Hold my shift key down and just drag my mouse out until I get to somewhere here. And then I'm going to left click and that will anchor it. Then I'm going to drag across until I get to about here and left click. Then I'm going to hold the shift key down, drag it down in a straight line until I get near this corner, left click and let go. Just drag a line out to here, then hold my shift key down so I get a perfectly straight line here, left click, keeping my shift key down, drag a line up, left click, drag across, left click, and then join it up to there. Now I'm going to zoom in on this corner. So what I want to do now is double click on this matting layer I've just made to expose the nodes, and I want to select this line. So I'm just going to click on the nodes until I get, if I click the top node it's selecting that line, so it must be this node. So now that's highlighted this line and I want to make it a curve. So with this line selected, I'm going to come over here and click on the drop down arrow and say curve, and that's going to give me curving handles here and here. So now I can drag this out and drag this out so it follows the shape of the curve. And then I'm going to click away and see how that looks, and I think that looks fine. So I'm going to come down to the bottom of the card and I'm going to do the same. I'm going to double click on this matting layer to expose these nodes, clicking on this bottom right hand corner node to highlight this line, come back to the icon, the path editing icon, click on the drop down arrow and change it to curve, and I'm going to do the same. I'm going to drag out the handles until I get a nice curve that I think fits to my card, and then click away. Just going to highlight that again because I'm just not quite happy with how this one looks, so I'm just going to alter it slightly. Okay, so that's fine. So I'm going to go view and fit to matte. So I'm going to select that and I'm just going to make it a different colour. I'm going to make it dark blue just so you can see it. So now I want to make a matting layer for this blue card. I may or may not use it. I've got an idea of some pattern paper or pattern card I want to use, but I'm going to cut 2 matting layers and then we'll see when I come to assemble it how I feel about it. So with the blue matting layer selected, I'm going to come to the editing icons, come to the create offset. I'm going to take the spacing down to 0.08 and say inward and say OK. And that's now given me an inward mat, which I'm going to select, and I'm going to change it to a different colour just so hopefully you can see it on the screen. So when I zoom in here now, you can see I've got 2 matting layers. So I'm going to left click on the first one, hold the shift key down and try and click the second one. And it's selecting the card, so I'm just going to drag them away. Select both. With them both selected, you can either right click and hit duplicate, or you can just hit the D key on your keyboard and that will duplicate both of them for you. I'll bring the duplicates down here, but we want to flip them because this is going the opposite way. So with them selected, I'm going to come to edit, make them a group. Now these 2 are a group, I can go edit and flip horizontally. So they will fit in there. I'm just going to ungroup them and line them up better. So I'm going to go edit center and edit middle. And they're now both centered together, and I'm just going to group them for now. You need to ungroup them before you send them to the machine. I'm going to do the same with these 2. Select them both, center them on the horizontal and on the vertical and position them in place. Now I just want what goes in here. So I'm going to choose a rectangle and I'm just going to zoom in on here. I'm going to position it kind of a similar distance from the dash line and the side as I've got here, and then I'm just going to drag it in and drag it up. So this bottom edge kind of lines up with the dark blue line here, and then it's of a similar distance from the two cut lines. With it selected, I'm going to do the same thing, make a matting layer. So I'm going to come to Edit, choose the offset line, make it 0.08 and inward and say OK. So the outer rectangle I'm going to change to the dark blue, just so it hopefully will make more sense, and the inner one I'm going to change to the pale blue. I'll go back to fit to mat. So that's how it's looking so far. So now I just need the bit that makes the bridge. So I'm going to choose the rectangle again. I'm going to squash it down. I think I made it 0.75, and I want it big enough so it overlaps both edges of the card. And that looks okay. And then again, I'm going to go to Edit. I'm going to make an inward again, 0.08 inward. As I say, I may not cut all these pieces. Again, I'll just colour them, so hopefully it will make more sense and you'll see what I'm trying to do. So there are all my matting layers. Now, this card flips. So before you do anything, first of all, you need to ungroup your layers, your matting layers. But this one on this side needs to flip. So I'm going to select it and go Edit, Flip Vertically, and just move it out of the way for now. And I'm going to choose the dark blue one and do the same, Edit, Flip Vertically. And then I'm going to come back to the mat. So what you're going to be left with are your pieces and this is your base card. So this is your base card. This is the first matting layer. As I say, you don't have to do all these layers. I might not, but I'm just showing you how you can do it easily. This is your second matting layer. Now I would give it a name here, call it whatever you want, but its name is Impossible Card. So save it into your projects and then download it however you download it. So I hope you found that helpful. I'm now going to show you how to assemble the card. Okay, so I've got the machine on. I'm going to come into patterns. I'm going to come up to the Wi-Fi transfer because that's how I've sent my design over. I'm going to select that. It will bring up the design that I've just made in Canvas. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to save it as it is and I'm going to put it in the machine. And it's told me now that it's saved it. So now I can go back to the home button, say it's okay to delete everything. Then go to pattern, this time go to saved data to the machine because that's where I put the design, and hit the up arrow which will take me to the last page because it's the last design I saved, and I'm going to select it. Now the top left pattern here, I'm not sure how well you're going to be able to see this, but the top left pattern is my base card and that's all I want to cut at the moment. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to say OK, so I get my mat and my editing icons. I'm going to come into the top left icon, the one that's got the square, the triangle and the circle, and I'm going to delete each one of these parts that I don't need. Now what I can do to save some time, I can hit the 3 squares, I can hit the first box on the left, which just enables me to select part of the design I want to delete, and because I've got one of the sections over here highlighted and it's one of these these on this side that I want to delete, I can isolate them by dragging the arrow over, saying OK, so the machine now knows that I'm trying to tell it I want to select those. Say OK, hit delete, and then again I've got something selected down here. If the card was selected, I'd have to come down here and select one of these, so I'd use the little directional arrows. So now again I can hit the red boxes, hit the first box, drag the arrow down. So long as you've got something selected near the rest of the items, you're okay, the machine will know what you want to do. Say OK, it's highlighted all those for me, they're the ones I want to delete. Say OK and put them in the bin. So now I've just got my base card. So to save some time, I've put a piece of white card on this mat. I'm just going to load it in. I'm going to say OK and do a background scan. I'm going to position this base card on my piece of white card, and I've got a cutout on mine here, so I'm hoping that I can get it on. Yeah, it looks as though it will just fit. So I'm going to say OK, OK, OK again, and cut. Okay, that's cut, so I'm just going to unload this mat. And that's my base card. Now, I'm just going to bring the machine back in. I'm going to go back to the home button, say it's okay to delete all the patterns, go back to pattern, save data, to the machine, up to the last page and select the design again. Now I've cut the card, I want to cut one of the base layers. So what I'm going to do, first of all, I think this is the bigger base layer, so I'm just going to check on the size. So that's 407 high, and the one up here is, yeah, so this section here, this set of patterns here is the first layer of my card, and this section here is the second layer. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get rid of the card, so I'm going to select it and hit the rubbish bin and say OK. Then I'm going to just click on one of these, use the red boxes again, use the first section of the red boxes to isolate these, to tell the machine it's these I want to select. Say OK, it's selected all the bits that I don't want, OK, hit the rubbish can and say OK. So now I'm left with these, and these are the ones I'm going to cut out of my first base layer. So I've got some pattern card here, and I'm going to put this on this mat. Now this card that I'm using is scrapbook card, and it's actually embossed. The design is raised, and it's a pale blue background with like white daisies with orange centres. So I'm going to put that in. Again, I'm going to say OK, and I'm going to do a background scan. And then I'm going to position my shapes up here near the top. I don't actually know whether I'm going to use the square or this thin rectangle, but I'll cut it anyway. I'm going to leave my blade as it is. I'm going to say OK and cut. And then I'm going to repeat the process and do it with the top layer. And then when I've got all the bits, I'll come back and I'll show you how to assemble it. I've got the base card cut and all the bits and pieces, but I'm not sure I want to double layer it now because this paper's quite pretty, and I don't know if I want to cover it up now with this orange card. I was going to double layer it, but I might just use this. So here's your base card with your split at the top and your 2 splits at the bottom. So what you need to do now, you need to flip this one side away from you and fold it on the score line, and that will then make your card stand like so. So these are going to go on here. I think I'll double layer that on there and put that on there, which will bring the orange in a little bit from the middle of the daisies. So I think I'll start to stick this and see how how it's looking. Now you could pop this up on 3D foam if you want. You could cut another one for the back and write your greeting on there. And then on the front here, you know, you could stamp happy birthday or something like that. Or you could even put, you know, some kind of an embellishment or something on there. I might pop that one up. All the foam pads and things like that that I use, there'll be links to in the shop page of my website, because I know people do contact me and ask me what I use. So that's on there. And then I think I'll maybe layer that one on top of there and use that as the bridge. And that kind of holds your card together, stops it from moving. So you only need to put glue on the ends, not in the middle where you're going to have a gap here. So I'm just going to bring this towards me so I can get it lined up. So I think for now I'll leave it like that. So that's your card. So that will fold flat and that will fit in a 5.5 by 4.25 envelope, which in the UK I think is an A6, it might be an A2. But then when it's opened up, it stands up. So please give the video a thumbs up if you liked it. Don't forget to subscribe if you don't already do so. Make sure you've got the bell notification icon on, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.